are just hours away from opening statements in Hunter Biden's federal gun trial, and so far Hunter is already getting different treatment from the media than former President Trump. Cue the sympathy statements.
The gun trial could expose personal, embarrassing details of the Biden family's private life, a major distraction for President Biden as he fights for re-election.
This is a historic case, but it is also a sad and sordid tale of drug addiction and its consequences in the Biden family, as in so many American families. And it carries the very real potential of personal and political pain for the president.
Hunter Biden has always been open about his battles with substance abuse, but this trial is going to put some graphic details out there in open court.
Tomi Lahren is a host on OutKick.com, and she joins us now. Tomi, the emotion with which those reports were delivered, the mainstream media clearly shedding a proverbial tear for Hunter. I'm looking. Are you? Are you shedding a tear, Tomi?
Oh, so many tears. I've already cried ahead of this segment, Todd and Carly, but I just love the description here of the graphic details. When we had to listen to Stormy Daniels' testimony for how many hours with graphic details that really had nothing to do with the alleged crime that Donald Trump was charged with and now convicted with. So I don't want to hear the media clutch their pearls about graphic details, but there's so much here, Todd and Carly, so much hypocrisy. We don't have time to go into it. I will just say, in comparing this to the Trump trial and what he was charged with and the so-called election interference, you know, a lot of this Hunter Biden case is going to revolve around that laptop from hell that we were told was Russian disinformation by those dozens of intelligence officials, by Joe Biden himself during the presidential debates last go around. So if you want to talk about election interference, I think we're going to be hearing a whole lot more about that laptop. Last thing I'll say about this, also very interesting to hear the media clutch their pearls about Hunter Biden when usually we hear them rail against the Second Amendment. They have no love for gun owners or for the right to bear arms, but now all of a sudden a drug addict getting a weapon and lying on a form, somehow that doesn't seem to be a bridge too far. So much hypocrisy, so little time.
Yeah, well, prosecutors say they plan to call about a dozen witnesses, including his past romantic partners. Those include his ex-wife, his brother's widow, and London Roberts, who is the mother of that little girl that the Biden family doesn't acknowledge. So quite the lineup there. He does have the support of his family. The First Lady was in the courtroom yesterday, so was his sister. And President Biden released a statement. But, Tomi, you touched on something that I also picked up on. The group that's noticeably silent here are the gun rights activists that you would think would be incensed about the first son owning a gun while a drug addict, but they're not saying anything. Why is that?
Well, again, we always know that there's different rules for Democrats, especially if you have an important and special last name like Biden. So the fact that the media is willing to just change their narrative on a whim, depending on who is involved, I mean, there couldn't be anything more textbook mainstream media than that. I will also say I would expect to see Robert De Niro and other celebrities outside of this trial because they told us they had to show up because that's where the cameras were last week for the Trump trial. So maybe we'll see them outside the courthouse today. I'm not going to bet on it, but, you know, that would track. That would be appropriate.
Let's be clear. Hunter Biden has more relatives at this thing than I had at any of my graduations. That sounds like a joke, but that is a clear intimidation tactic in Wilmington, which is Joe Biden's haunt. That's where he lives. That's where he's famous. That's a city he made. They're trying to send a message to the jury, and that's not right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.